Headline after headline, it's beginning to feel like for the average local family, it's impossible to expect to be able to stay on this beautiful island that we call home. But is this really the case? Or is there still hope? Stay tuned as I address the elephant in the room, the affordability crisis that our generation has been dealt with, the future for homeowners on Oahu, and the solutions that can help you protect your own in this ever increasingly competitive world that we live in. Coming right up. What's up guys, I'm Vince, a realtor based here on Oahu, Hawaii, here to put the real in real estate. Today is going to be a bit different from my usual informative home buying tips that I usually cover, because today I'll be tackling an even bigger issue with home buying, issues that most realtors kind of choose or want to avoid talking about. But as a realtor, I can't keep advocating for all the good that comes from owning real estate without addressing the underlying issues that many of you face that stops you from investing in the first place. So let's talk about it. Can us millennials afford to own homes one day or continue to live here comfortably on Oahu? Or will we all become renters to big business or be forced to move away from our home? But guys, before I get started, if you are interested in being a well-rounded, well-informed individual in the local and national real estate markets and economy, or in general you want to level up in all forms of self-mastery and growth, then I invite you to subscribe and join the tribe, because I am on a mission to build this kind of community from the ground up. So that being said, let's get right back into the video. So if you don't know, Hawaii is expensive. I mean, why wouldn't it be? The beaches, the community, the lifestyle, the vibe. You just can't beat it, and everyone wants to be here. They want their own piece of paradise, as they say. Add that to being on an island where everything that we need to survive needs to be shipped here from the mainland or from wherever. It's going to be costly. So with that in mind, studies have shown that the household income that is needed to live comfortably in Oahu is around $122,000 per year. And on the national scale, wages aren't keeping up with the cost of living. You see, the average salary in this island's capital, which is Honolulu, the average salary you would see is about $66,000 a year, which is a bit higher than the US national average, which is about $52,000 a year. So that means to live comfortably here on Oahu, you would have to make double the average salary. If you are lucky enough to have a spouse, that means you can split up the household income in half, and meaning both of you would have to at least make the average of $66,000 to live comfortably, which is close to about $30 an hour for the both of you. Now back to the affordable housing crisis. In the previous video, I covered the market update. I said, and that is the median price of homes in Oahu for single family homes hits about $1 million in Q3. So as you can tell, it has been a red hot market for homeowners, more specifically home sellers. So on top of the salaries of the average local family not keeping up with the high cost of living to live comfortably on this island, the home prices are also steadily increasing, making it impossible for locals to believe that they can still live here and still have enough money to live a normal life or a good life. So that about sums up our predicament, give or take. So what can be done about this? Well, let's address the affordable housing issue a little bit more. The real big issue is the lack thereof, actual supply of homes. Hawaii will need about 65,000 new housing units by 2025 in order to meet the current demand. To be clear, homeowners or home sellers and home buyers are not to blame for the increase in home prices. They're just caught in the middle of this market, and it's not as simple as just not buying homes right now, because many are not in the position to not be in this market right now and to miss that opportunity to lock in that low interest rate so that way they pay less interest over the life of the loan in the long term. And the increase of home prices is both a blessing and a curse to a lot of people on this island for the local community. For local families that are already homeowners, this increase in price only helps them build their wealth, and if you were in their position, I'm sure you'd want the same thing too. So we really can't expect the prices to go back down to be reasonable enough for us. The better solution instead is to focus on just increasing the supply overall. So if we were to advocate for more affordable housing in new builds, new communities, this would disperse the overall demand in the resale and the new build markets, and so that there is less overbidding, overpaying, as well as more opportunities for first-time home buyers and our generation to get into the housing market, get into the game at a cheaper rate. So that being said, what is being done to help this issue? The good news is that there is more of a bigger push for affordable housing these days. Right now, the state of Hawaii has close to 26,000 affordable housing units as of May 2021. And with that, we have many future projects underway in many communities stretching from the west side like Ho'opili all the way over to Ala Moana, Ward, Kaka'ako area. And on a national level, other than the Federal Reserve decreasing the mortgage rates to a near 0% benchmark, we are also seeing bills trying to be passed to help first-time home buyers afford a home, such as Biden's home buying tax credit. It officially became a bill back in October, and it is in the process of being passed. It is not 100% guaranteed that it will be passed as law, but if it does, it will be as similar to what happened back in 2008 with Bush and Obama, where they had a first-time home buyer tax credit as well, but that was up to about $8,000, whereas Biden's tax credit would be up to $15,000. And unlike the previous one, where it's a tax credit that can be applied or deducted on your tax bill in the following year, there's a possibility that this home buyer's tax credit could be applied directly to your closing when you buy your home. So that being said, we're seeing a lot of good opportunities being passed right now and that we are coming across, but is it enough? Well, it absolutely is better than nothing, right? But I believe if we are to take things a bit further, some alternative solutions could be better community planning by building more upwards to maximize land, as well as to build eco-friendly, sustainable types of communities, such as what we're seeing around the world right now. Another thing we could possibly do is change zoning laws. Right now in Hawaii, I believe only 4.7% of land is used towards residential use, while the majority of it is used for conservation and agricultural. There's nothing wrong with this, and I believe that is the right thing to do, but if we were to advocate for maybe just a bit more to go towards residential use, maybe even double that, so 10%, that could open up a lot more opportunity to build, and as well as to decrease or reduce scarcity. Scarcity as in the lack thereof of available housing or land, and thus the lack of available land kicks up the price of the land itself, right? That's a given. And on top of that, not just to open more space to build homes, we should incentivize the construction industry even more, so that way we can increase the productivity of home building even more. In general, we could create better work cultures and more opportunities for pay to increase. And overall, we can create space for huge industries to move in and create more job opportunities. Hawaii is behind in creating more job opportunities in high earning income industries such as tech, engineering, manufacturing, energy. The majority of job opportunities here is in tourism, in the service industry, and hospitality. While this does create more job and positions, it offers little to no room to increase your pay to match that of the cost of living here on the island. But I am getting ahead of myself. This is way too complicated for someone like me to speak on this, but a man can dream, right? That would be ideal, I think. So outside of what is already being done, what can we do as a generation to help our circumstances? So the reality is there is no immediate solution in place, and there's only so much that we can expect from the government, but we do need to keep pushing for change. But in the meantime, we need to adapt as the new generation of homeowners. What worked for our parents or our grandparents will not work in today's world. It is a whole different place, a whole different ball game, right? There was just less people then and less need for suburban housing in general here on the island. And to address the narrative that is already being said across the island here, there is a community here that is fighting against foreigners from occupying here, foreigners like us that want to make a home here on the island. And they're pushing for this because it's just getting a bit too crowded. And I understand that, but it's unrealistic to expect that. Almost everyone, anywhere, has experienced in some form of way, some sort of displacement. We're all trying to survive and find a home. The best case is to understand and be aware of how things are right now and to push for any solution that can help the greater good, the majority of us. And while we push and advocate for change, in the meantime, the only real thing that we can do is to change our own actions and lifestyles. If this is a hostile jungle, then you're going to need to adapt and learn to survive to the new terrain. A bit of a metaphor there for you. I know that metaphor, it's very cliche, but That was how I was raised to look at the world, because my family, being immigrants, came from a country that was impoverished, and it was the norm to look at the world that way. The world as a hostile place and nothing is owned to you, and you need to fight for what you believe in. So here are things that you can do to protect yourself in this new terrain, this jungle, and some of you may already be doing these things. The first thing that you can do is house hack, or the term house hacking. This is just a fancy term to split up the housing expenses, or more specifically, the mortgage. In your life, your mortgage will most likely be the most expensive thing that you pay every month. If you can hack this and find cheaper alternatives to pay for this, then you should, right? For us Asians, house hacking comes in the form of living with your family for almost all of your life until you're ready to buy a home of your own, versus getting out of the house at the age of, let's say, 18 and getting straight into the rental market. This has always been part of our culture, even back home. It's much easier to build your finances and to get further if you're helping each other, right? So typically in the Asian household, the parents will help you with your financial burdens, and in return, you will help your parents with the home and to care for them as well. Now, for some of you that don't have the luxury of having your family help you, then some other ways you can house hack is to find other people that you trust, friends, siblings, whoever it is, to live with you, and you split up the mortgage together. Or the same thing applies if you're renting. You live somewhere and you split the rent. I get it, at the end of the day, everyone wants to own a home of their own, but at the beginning, the hardest part of building wealth is to get off the ground. And as you continue to get older, your financial responsibilities will continue to increase with your age. So if you can find ways to decrease your financial responsibilities in some way, that will help you in the long run. Now, that first tactic is how you would save more money, but in reality, there's only so much you can save. So the next thing that you're going to want to do, of course, is to increase your overall income. To do this, you want to focus on building high income skills, and then eventually increasing the amount of income sources you have. Instead of relying on just one income source, your main day-to-day job, you will eventually invest in things that can bring you money outside of this. Essentially, we're talking about not putting all of your eggs into one basket, but on the flip side, you do not want to make a new basket if you haven't made that first basket sturdy enough, if that makes sense. It's a very common mistake that I see, that a lot of people try to spread themselves too thin and invest in so many things at once. But what really matters in the beginning is to pick one thing, invest all your time in that, and to build it up to a sustainable level that you can really rely on. Once you know it offers you this stability, that's when you move on to the next income source. And as you continue to build that in the slow way, over time, it gets easier and easier. And so other than finding ways to save more money and then increasing your overall income, the last thing that will ultimately determine whether or not you build enough wealth and you can continue living in places like here in Hawaii is whether or not you choose to live below your means. This means to sacrifice the things that you do not need for the bigger picture. I get it, it's not fair, but it is a reality. All of us want to live a lavish lifestyle, but anyone that's living here already understands that there is a give and take to where you decide to live. If you want to live in such a beautiful place here, then you need to give up some of those other things that do not matter. Ultimately, the goal should be not to look or feel rich, but to actually be rich and wealthy enough to live the life that you really want, like be in Hawaii. All right, so to tie all of this together, to my fellow millennials and friends that want to continue living here in Hawaii, one of the best places in the world, the key is to not mind all of the noise, all of the headlines, and to continue just building yourself up and your family. We need to help each other out and continue to build up your skills individually, and of course, eventually your title and your pay, all while living below your means and adapting to this new world. We can't expect the world to get better all at once for us. We just have to be better and smarter than the previous generation before us. And as time goes on and our generation takes over, we can make waves in building better communities and better living standards for most of us to live here in the future. It all starts with awareness and for us to push for change in ourselves and to influence others to push for change as well. All right, so that is it for this video. I know that this video took a whole nother direction than what you're used to seeing from me. This is a little bit closer to what I want my content to be about. You know, like real talk, because there's way too much fluff out here. Anyways, I will create a continuation of this where I go in depth of the available affordable housing on the island. So definitely stay tuned for that. But for now, have a blessed day and I'll see you soon. Peace.